A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters, our side of the house rejects the idea that our mother tongue has no future. They too also are not sure on what the definition is. They gave us 3 different definitions. But in essence, the bulk of their argument is it has no future because less people speak it, number 1. And number 2, which is an argument which I'll refute. And number 2, that, well, it's not important anyway. There are much more other important things out there. We reject this, brothers and sisters, on the basis that we value our mother tongue. It's underpinning our culture, underpinning the way we got our religion, underpinning the future of our generations. In this debate today, there were 3 main areas of contention, I believe. 3 main areas of conflict, and in fact 3 main areas of debate. The first is whether our language is intertwined with our culture and whether it has a connection to our community framework. Our side argued that language and culture are intertwined. When one goes, the other will also go. We cited the world's strongest authority on this subject, Dr. Fishman. We cited Sapir and Wolf. We cited Fishman and various others. The argument from them was, well, where is the evidence? Where's the empirical evidence? Well, I'm more than happy to email them over 1,000 pages of essays looking at anthropological studies. Did you know, by the way, there's a whole subject called anthropology. There's a whole subject called linguistics, looking at sociology, which looks at communities. We can look at the language of Cherokee, for example, and look at how that went and how the values in Native America went as a direct result. So there is a huge groundswell of information out there, which tells us that when a language goes, a culture goes, its values goes as a direct result. In Gujarati, some sayings came to mind while I was there. One of them is Velo Kenche Murai Jai, which means children reap. That means that we go back to our roots at all time. Our community goes back to its root. And another one that is very important, which Ifat Auntie pointed to, which is Mautar Vave and Via Vade, which means children reap what their parents sow. Our part of the house on this side is not willing to risk our culture not continuing because we are not willing to risk the fact that our community's network would dilute. Sayyidah spoke very passionately about Gujarati being the common tongue of Khojas, linking Khojas from places like Moa all the way to Minnesota, from Mumbai to Mombasa, etc. And I talked about it as well. If that thread of Gujarati goes from our community, then what have we left? What connects us to the community in Madagascar if we can't speak to them in the same language? They speak French, we speak English, and so on. The second main area of this debate, which was very important for us, was the idea of passing our madhab from generation to generation. And this, we feel, is the most critical point on our side of the house. We feel we cannot risk going against the wise words of Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani. And I gave you a direct quotation from him where he said the importance of mother tongue to preserve it so that the religion passes from generation to generation. I also gave you examples. I had none to the contrary, but I gave you examples of other Shia Ithna Ashari organizations, other diaspora of equal population that left India only the same time when our forefathers left, some 150 years ago, and today they don't practice their religion. So when I'm asked what evidence is there, well, I've given you 2 evidences. I could have given you more. I could have talked to you about the Lavati community in Oman. I could have given to Khojas that went to Russia, Khojas that went to Iran. There are so many out there. I even told you about Khoja Wahhabis. It happens when you lose your language, you lose your culture, you lose your religion. And that is why we're not okay to risk that. That is why Gujarati must have a future. And the third point of contention is whether Gujarati has already passed its sell-by date. The proposition feel it's a lost cause. Why bother? There are more important things to focus on. Well, we feel that's too soft a way of handling things. We think if you want something, if you realize its value, then you do whatever it takes to maintain it. They feel Gujarati is a backward subject. Well, I'll tell them 60 million people speak Gujarati. The world's top business people speak Gujarati. We feel that Gujarati can be revived. It's failing a little bit in the West in our community, but it can be pushed and it can be revived. And I gave the example of Hebrew and Hawaiian and various other languages as well. And yes, Karar, it is also my dream that my children speak Gujarati. That is why today we disagree with you, because we believe Gujarati is the common thread that keeps our Khoja community united. We disagree because we know that a common language means without a common language we will lose our common culture. We disagree with your proposition because we know without our common culture there's a strong chance that our religion may not pass from generation to generation. And we disagree because we understand that anything that helps our madhab is something which we need to protect. That is why we believe we need to solidify our culture, we need to solidify our community structures, and we need to solidify our understanding of our language. And that is why we seek your support to oppose this motion.